Big LEZ'S League, an all rugby league experience. Hello, welcome back to Big LEZ'S League, an all rugby league experience. Welcome to the second part of our season preview series. You guys were quite lucky we got the Cast Patrol on for the first part, but I'd argue that this episode is going to be even more exciting. We've got so many great teams to talk about here. Eels, Panthers, Roosters. It's probably one of the more exciting episodes out of the whole series, and what better bloke to do it with than Troy from the Parra Cave podcast. Mate, what's going on?
Not much, mate. Thank you very much for having me on and previewing these teams for season 2025. I'm looking really forward to it and cannot wait. I think there's about 34 days until round one. So, cannot wait.
Same here, mate. Same here. I'm just biting at the bit to get some rugby league back up, and even like watching the 9 series and that, you know, you're getting these little tastes here and there, getting ready for the trials as well. Super keen to get rugby league back on the TV screen. I'm as I said, inching at the bit. Mate, we'll start off with your team, the Parramatta Eels. What's your sort of read on them going into this year, 2025? What can we expect from the Parramatta Eels?
Well, I think there's a little bit of the unexpected, to be honest. I think with the new coach, Jason Riles, at the helm, I think we won't know what sort of a playing style he'll have in mind for the Eels going into this season. I think new players as well as is interesting in positions that we have. The loss of players as well is interesting, how we can bounce back from that. But, as I said, I think it could be the unexpected. I don't think we can expect anything, to be honest. I think it's the reverse.
Yeah, exactly, mate. I don't know what to think and what to really read from Parramatta this year either. I think that they're definitely going to go better than last year. I think that it's probably their floor to get in around there again. I don't think it's going to happen, though. I think you've just got too many stars. You've got a very fast-moving team. I think it's going to catch a lot of other sides off guard. And then obviously having a new, younger fullback in there as well with Isaiah Yongi. It is a little bit of a change of the guard there as well, obviously with Gutho sort of leaving the building. But look, it's definitely an exciting time. What's your thoughts on the young kid, Isaiah Yongi?
Yeah, look, to be honest, as you just said, it's exciting, I think. He's only played the one NRL game. Some huge raps on him. He has come out of I guess you could call it the best system in the NRL at the moment, the Penrith Panthers. Excited to see what he can bring to the side. Obviously a lot younger than Gutho, who left the side, so a lot of pace as well. And hopefully he can get some serious game time. And a few people have said probably it would have been better if Gutho was still there, and then probably he could have learnt the ropes a little bit more, as he is a little bit fresh. And as I said, only played one NRL game. So, excited to see him go and play in season 2025.
As a Parra fan, does that worry you a little bit? Obviously not having a guy like Gutho around the building with a bit more experience in that one jersey?
Oh, look, yes and no. I'm sort of glad and sad at Gutho leaving the club. Obviously sad because he spent a lot of time there. He was a leader there. He was the captain. Some would say that he was probably the glue of the side as well. And obviously gave 120%, played injured and stuff like that. So bit sad in that respect, and also the experience that he did bring to the side as well. Glad, I guess, because I think both sides, himself and also the club, came to an amicable departure, I guess you could call it, and he's down at the Dragons now and co-captain down there. And there was always that probably a little bit of worry about his body as well. It was breaking down a little bit. As I said, he played injured late in that game, late in that season, and especially in that last game of the year. So, look, it's always sad to see players go, but nevertheless, it's exciting to see what's come in.
100%. I think it's fun to sort of look at this new era too at the Parramatta Eels, and as I said, much more of a fast-paced team. You also lose Regan Campbell-Gillard, mate. I think it's a lot of experience to walk out the door all at one go. What are your thoughts on the Regan Campbell-Gillard departure, and who do you think is a guy that we could be seeing in that jersey?
Yeah, that one. I don't really know what was going on with Regan Campbell-Gillard. To be honest, I thought there was a press conference last year when Jason Riles was announced as coach, and for me as a Parramatta fan, he probably didn't sound too excited about him coming to the club. To be honest, he sort of used the if he wants me, he wants me. If he doesn't, he doesn't. That's football sort of thing. So that probably turned me off a little bit. But you're right, he does have a lot of experience. Obviously, played for New South Wales and Australia, and also over. I think it's easy over 200 NRL games. So he'll be missed up front in terms of being the front rower, working alongside Junior Paolo as well. In terms of who's going to probably take that spot from him, look, I think probably Joe Offahengawi will probably go more into a starting role this season. Mostly he came off the bench, I think, last year with Regan there. So I think he'll probably take RCG's spot.
Yeah, look, it's fair enough. I mean, Joe himself has a lot of experience, played Origin, I think, once or twice too, so he has that level of experience as well. Really solid player, and, I think was a little bit unlucky in the sense that he was thrown into a role in that 13 jersey that he's probably not very used to. And obviously when you look at a lot of sides in this competition at the moment, and then obviously compare it to what you previously had with Hopgood, it's very different, and it's a lot of a slower paced pack. Again, we talk about the speed going through the middle there a little bit as well. Do we see Junior Paolo maybe take a little bit more of a bench role this year? Do you see him coming off the bench a bit?
Yes, I do. I think he may start the season in terms of starting the games. I said when RCG and Junior were together, they probably one of them should have been on the bench and one of them should have been starting because I think we sort of lost a little bit of momentum when both of them were off the field at the same time. But I can see the impact he could make if he was to come off the bench as well. Just that experience, all the I guess you could say the first 10, 15 minutes is taken out of the game, 20 minutes taken out of the game. So the hard stuff is taken out of it. But I think he will probably start the season in the starting side. That's where I guess I would probably have him and just see how his form goes because he didn't have the best of seasons last year. Late last year, he had the ankle injury, which forced him out for the rest of the year, midway through the year. So apparently he's looking slimmer as well, slimmer and fitter. So he'll be primed for a big year in 2025.
Do you think he plays similar minutes? I mean, we're used to seeing a Junior Polo with a ton of experience playing huge minutes, same as RCG last year. Do you think there's a little bit of a leeway there with minutes? Maybe he plays instead of 60, around 40, 35?
Yeah, potentially. Potentially. I mean, he is getting older. There's no secret about that one. But yeah, definitely. I think that would benefit him as well. He could have those short little big bursts in impacts. And yeah, I think that could be a plan that Jason Riles has in mind.
Yeah, look, it's exciting to see what the plan is with Jason Riles. Obviously, a new coach coming into the side. You sort of don't know what to expect, and especially with a lot of the other assistant coaches that have gone into those head coaching roles. It's been very up and down. I mean, you get the lows of a Trent Barrett, the Bulldogs, and then the highs of a Craig Fitzgibbon going to the Sharks as well. As a Parra fan, what's the vibe around Jason Riles at the moment from what you've seen and what you've heard from him so far?
Yeah, very positive, I think. Look, the thoughts were that he was probably the right candidate for the job, having done his apprenticeship at Melbourne and the Roosters as well as rugby union as well. So he's done a long apprenticeship under some fine coaches. So he's learnt the game. And look, I guess from what I'm seeing on social media and the like, the vibe around the place is pretty good. In terms of having him as the head coach. So everyone's getting along. He's implementing some of things like bringing some of the old boys back into the fold, getting involved with the community as well. There's been a few fan days that he's been a big contributor to, like getting that happening and having that fan engagement, and also getting some of the new assistant coaches that are at the club as well. So, look, it'll be exciting to see what his coaching style will be. I think by the signings that he has probably had or got, it probably means that it's probably going to be a faster sort of brand of football than what Parramatta has played in the past. So, yeah, really looking forward to seeing how he's going to go.
Yeah, a really exciting time for Parramatta fans and for the club as well, hopefully to get back into finals this year. Let's just do a little bit of a reflection on last year, 2024. Finished 15th, 7 wins, 17 losses. Points scored, 561. Points against was 716. My little blurb that I've written there on the slide, Eels are looking really slick. Lomax, Adokar, Yongi. Their pack will be a lot slicker too, a lot more mobile. Just having a look at the signings that they've made too. Obviously, you've got the big gun there, Lomax. It looks like he's training at right centre. If you're Jason Riles, I'm going to throw a little bit, throw you under the bus here a little bit. Who's your right winger?
Well, I mean, I would have put Zach Lomax on the wing. To be honest, I mean, we all saw the football that he played last year. He represented New South Wales and Australia from that position. I guess he probably signed under Brad Arthur, wanting to come as a centre. Look, that's not to say that he's not a quality player at centre, but I would have put him on the wing. That's just I would have him there.
Yeah, look, and I mean, obviously with the footy that Penasini's played at right centre as well compared to the left side, and defensive patterns as well when you're moving to the other side of the field, I probably would have thought that would have been a nice little combination to really stack up that right side. You have Penasini and Lomax, and then maybe a Sean Russell and Adokar on the left side. I think that it's probably going to be Sean Russell now. I love Bailey Simonson. I go to the gym with Bailey Simonson down at Titan. So he's a quality fella. Love the bloke. But I think that Sean Russell, from the footy that I've seen from him of late, especially in that Prime Minister's game as well, the quality that he was playing at centre, I like him as an option as well there on the wing. But we'll have to wait and see, obviously, with pre-season and things like that. Have you heard anything as a Parra fan as to who's been training where?
No, not to be honest. I mean, we all know that Adokar's out until round 3, so the first couple of rounds we'll see who gets a good crack at a wing spot, and or obviously there'll be 2 spots available there. So look, I probably tend to agree with you there. I think Sean Russell will get one of those wing spots. I think Bailey's still out for a little bit as well. He won't be starting the season. So when he does come back, I'd probably well, I mean, with Lomax and Penasini in the side, he'll probably have to come back on the wing. So it's going to be a fierce battle, I think, between Simonson and Russell for that vacant, I guess you could call, wing spot, because obviously Adokar is probably going to sew up that spot when he comes back in round number 3.
Yeah, look, well, it's going to be exciting to see how this team looks. I'm even hearing from Parra fans that Adokar might start in New South Wales Cup, which is, for me, in my opinion, I look at Adokar, he's not a guy that I would look at, and obviously watching him for the past few years and go, yeah, that guy should be playing New South Wales Cup. So, look, we'll see what happens. There's a lot of quality. A guy that a lot of people may have forgotten about as well that's still in the squad is Hayes Dunster too. I think he's 27 years of age now. Correct me if I'm wrong. So he's been in that system for a while, but he still excites me. Big frame on him this year too. So I'm excited to see what damage he can do. What's your read on Hayes?
Yeah, well, he's another one that will be in a race for a wing spot, and I wouldn't be surprised if he does get a crack at it round number 1. Look, it's probably he's been a bit hard done by the last few years, and when I say that, I mean because of injury and some pretty major injuries, and probably just hasn't come back that same sort of player. But as you mentioned, he's looking fit. He's at training, and he looks like on his social medias he's enjoying being at training and around the guys as well. So, look, I think it's probably a little bit of a, I guess you could say, make or break year for Hayes Dunster. Just trying to get back into that first grade squad, but I would like to see him back, and I think he may get a crack in round number 1.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, there is a spot, 2 spots available, as you said, with a few injuries in the back line as we lead into the early rounds of the competition. Look, mate, if I pull Lomax and Yongi out, who is one of your favourite signings going into next year? Just not counting Lomax and Yongi.
Oh, probably Jack Williams, I think. As you mentioned before, a little bit of a smaller, slimmer forward pack. He's got the experience coming from the Sharks as well. So I think he'll be a quite good acquisition. I think he'll be wanting to get that starting spot, but I think he'll probably come off the bench and add a little bit of impact. And as I said, a bit faster than what Parramatta has had in the past. Parramatta in the past has probably had a bigger forward pack and not as mobile, but he certainly brings that mobility to this team. So yeah, probably Jack Williams, I'd say.
Well, look, that's where he's done his best work, off the bench. I think that he's a quality player in that regard, just a bit of a smaller body, leg speed, quick play of the balls. I do like Jack Williams in that regard. He is a guy that I could potentially see starting if they do want to really, mobile up the pack and have 2 of those sort of guys starting on the field in Williams and Hopgood. In the same breath, I've got Lane starting. I think that he might move into a bit more of a middle role, as probably hinted to in the back end of last year. So look, we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, a new coach coming in. So we'll have to see what his sort of mindset is on that. But I'm excited for Parra. I really am. I'm excited to see the new brand of football that Parra are playing with. And I think that level of fast footy, it suits Moses and Brown, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, they're both quick sort of players. But yeah, I think you're right. I think it does suit Mitchell Moses a bit more. We've all seen in the past his quick little darts down the blind side and the short side that have led to tries. So, yeah, I think he'll be happy about the more mobile sort of forwards that he has to play with in the team.
Yep. Mate, Ronald Volkman, the last one we'll sort of go through here, obviously came to the club a little bit later in the preseason. Talk to me about Ronald Volkman. Is he a guy that if there's an injury in the half somewhere, is he a guy that comes straight in? Are you probably putting Hawkins before him a little bit? What's your read on Ronald Volkman and that signing?
Yeah, look, I think it's a good one. Again, he came back from injury as well last season. I think he's on a development deal at the moment and can't play first grade, I think it is, until round number 10 or 11, I think it is. So it's a good depth signing as well in those halves positions. We did see last season with Mitchell Moses going down for an extended period. We did have Dijon Archie play halfback. Dylan Brown actually played halfback as well. There was a lot of sort of chopping and changing. But I think he obviously plays in the halves. So I think it is a good depth signing. And again, a player who would probably want to try and get back into first grade and sort of make a name for himself. He did a couple of years ago at the Warriors, and I think he'll probably want to get back into first grade.
Yeah, 100%. It's going to be exciting to see Ronald Volkman. I'm really keen to just see how he does come back. Obviously, from a lengthy ACL rehab there. Obviously left the Warriors, tried to get a dig at the Dragons and was unsuccessful. He's had that year off now. He's had that break. I'm keen to see how he does come back from that, because obviously we've seen a little bit the effects of, more from a mental health side of things, with Chanel Harris-Tavita at the Warriors, and having that year off has sort of hindered his spot in first grade and where he comes into sides. Whereas if Chanel Harris-Tavita maybe stayed that year and played, he probably would be, on everyone's lips as the starting halfback following Sean Johnson's retirement. But obviously having that year off, it's pushed him back a little bit in the pecking order. I really do like Ronald Volkman, though. I think that he is a great utility guy to have. I think that, as well with the question marks around hooker too, if you want a utility that can play multiple roles, including a bit of 9 off the bench, Volkman could be a nice little option there as well. So Ronald Volkman is a signing that does excite me a lot. And I am excited to see where he does come into the equation there for Parramatta, if he's a guy that, does maybe crack the 17 and a 14 sort of capacity. Mate, obviously, Gutho, Sanders, Talangi, Dejan Arce, Zach Sini, Regan Gillard, Mike Acevo, Morgan Harper, and then Ofigi Ogden and Makisi Makatoa have been released as well. So a lot of losses there, but a much more faster pack. Where do you see Parramatta landing on the ladder?
Parramatta in season 2025, I'm going to say 6th position. I just think probably that unexpected, or what we're going to see, what we're going to get, the new players, the 2 seasons that we've had since the grand final. I just think the unexpected from other teams as to what they're going to see. I think we could get back into 6th position. I mean, obviously the finals will be the goal, having missed out the last 2. Some would say that I'm crazy saying 6th spot, but look, anything can happen. And I think with all this recent talk of Dylan Brown and how much he's worth and how much he's being offered, I think if he has a big season, along with Mitchell Moses, if he stays fit and healthy and plays a full season, I think we can go pretty deep into this competition.
Well, mate, I also think that the new style of play, we've already talked about this mobile pack, and obviously it's going to suit the halves better to move a little bit faster in attack as well. I think it's going to catch a few teams off guard. I think it really will, and I think that Parramatta, pending the start and obviously how Brown handles all of this drama around his contract and things like that, I honestly do think that Parramatta are a realistic option as a top 8 side. I think that I've got them at 8th. I think that they just squeeze in. I think it is going to be a tight battle between a few other sides, which we'll reveal in other podcasts. But I think that Parra, they are a side that can make that push. Yes, they've lost a bit of experience, but I think that this new era, I think that Riles, from what I've seen from him as an assistant, I'm confident in him and his ability to coach. He's got plenty of experience under a few really successful coaches. I'm excited for Parramatta in 2025, and I do see them as a top 8 side and top 8 threat. I think that the talent that they've got in that roster too, and especially if Iongi bursts out of the ground too, and if not, obviously you've got the young guy as well there, Joash Papali'i from the Bulldogs too, who can hop right into that jersey. If one of those young guns really come out of the ground, I'm really excited for Parramatta and what they can do as well. So 8th position for me, I think, is a realistic option for Parra. Mate, is there anything that we've missed on the Parramatta Eels before we go on to the next team?
No, I don't think so. I think we've covered it pretty well. I think, look, who knows how the new Centre of Excellence might improve their performances as well, which is due to open in March as well. So you never know. State-of-the-art facility, the best in the world, apparently. So you never know what that can do to a team. But, look, as I said before, the goal will be the finals, and then anything can happen in finals. But, no, I think we've covered it all pretty well for Parramatta 2025. Love
a good Centre of Excellence, mate. We'll see if that helps them going into next year. Let's hop straight into the Panthers, mate, the 4-time premiers. Mate, I'm not too sure if I've got them winning again. And I know that everyone, if you go against Penrith and you do that for the 5th time in a row, it's probably a bad omen for you. But I think that losing Luai, losing Fish, especially through the middle, I'm not as convinced that they can go ahead and go for 5. Are you convinced that? Do you think it's just Penrith locked in as the favourites for the competition?
Oh, look, I guess they have to be favourites, don't they? Being 4-time premiers in a row. Yeah, I mean, we've probably said it the last couple of years, haven't we, that they might drop off a bit like the old Melbourne Storm when they lose players, they drop off. But the Panthers have lost players and won competitions. So, again, this year they've lost players as well and quality players. They'll still be competitive and they've still got a really good side. They've signed a good couple of players. So you can never write them off.
No, you can't, mate. You can't. I think that it's going to be really interesting to see Cleary take a little bit more control of his side too. Obviously, Luai and Cleary, they've really worked hard over the past few years to balance the load, especially over the past 6 years. When they've gone on these sort of runs, they've really done well to sort of balance things out between them. Having, Blaze Talangi, who's going to be a lot more of a run-centric type of player, you'd assume from watching him at Parramatta, I think it's going to be really interesting to see Cleary really take a lot of control, running both sides of the ruck and organising the whole field, rather than, having little glimpses here on the left side and combining with Luai, but mainly being situated on that right side. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think it's something that's going to hinder Cleary's game? Do you think it's something that's going to level up Cleary's game, having a little bit more control over the team?
Oh, yeah, look, definitely Cleary will have the control over the team. And as you said, he'll probably be wanting to do a lot of it on either side of the field. I think Blaze is obviously a rookie. It was his rookie year this year. He played a number of positions at Parramatta, fullback, centre, 5'8". So he's obviously going there to learn underneath Cleary to benefit his game. But yeah, it could actually be a hindrance for Cleary as well, trying to do too much. I think, and without Luai being there, so it's going to be interesting to see how he goes. Again, he'll be crucial to their chances. He's got to stay healthy as well. He's had his injury problems over the last few years, so yeah, he'll definitely take more of the reins and. It'll be interesting to see how he handles it.
Well, mate, you spoke about just then doing too much. We've seen 2 classic examples, one from another halfback and one from a fullback of late. The fullback that I'm talking about is James Tedesco back, I think it was 2 years ago now, where it sort of hindered the footy that the Roosters were able to play because he was just getting overly involved. He wanted a touch on every single set of every single play, and it sort of hindered, Sam Walker, because Sam Walker wasn't getting as much ball. Keary wasn't getting much ball. Everything was sort of going through Tedesco a little bit, but we saw when he pulled it back a bit and sort of let the other guys do their thing as well, that they sort of started to play a lot better football. Nico Hines in Origin, I think that was the big reason as to why he didn't go so well in that position. It was because a lot of everything was going through him. He had to run every single tackle of every single play, run big meters, which is great. But at the end of the day, you've got to let the other guys do their thing as well. You've got guys like Luai, you've got guys like Tedesco or Edwards. You've got plenty of stars in that team that can do their thing, and he was sort of just overdoing it a little bit with the ball in hand. So definitely important to have that balance, and I'm excited to see Blaze Talangi and how he goes. Just a question for you, mate. I'm not sure if you've been watching too much of him coming through the grades, Blaze Talangi, but has he played much football in that 5'8" position through the grades?
I think he has played a little bit, but I have heard that fullback was his favoured position and the one that he has sort of mastered as well. So, but he's keen to learn that 5'8" position, and that's probably the reason why he's gone to the Panthers.
Well, look, it's going to be exciting to see how he goes and how he develops into that role. But I certainly think that a lot of the action's going to go through Cleary. He's going to have Blazer's going to have a lot more of a run-centric sort of game. And it'll be interesting to see how that dynamic works and changes as well as we get through the season. I think on that sense, it might be a little bit of a slow start for the Panthers while they get used to that dynamic. But I think that Cleary is just the ultimate professional, and they're the ultimate professionals out there. But whereby round, 15 and onwards, I think that they start playing some really classy football. Look, mate, talk to me about the impact of losing a guy like Fish in the pack too, because, you've lost Luai, and we talked about the workload and evening that out, but Fish is just such a leader through the middle and gets through a lot of the tough stuff and a lot of the stuff that a lot of other forwards don't want to do. Talk to me about the impact of losing a guy like James Fisher-Harris.
Oh, look, it's massive. The Warriors have got a good one there for this year, but as for the Panthers, yeah, it's a massive loss for them. We did see the Bash brothers together and what they could do to sides, especially a few years ago in the 22 grand final. They tore Parramatta apart in that first 20 minutes, but other games, other than that, they've done the same thing. So he's a New Zealand captain. Won the Golden Boot. He's won 4 premierships. He does the work. He gets the yards. He's going to be massively missed. And it's going to be interesting to see how Moses Leota reacts to him leaving, I guess, because sometimes your front rowers have your little competitions between each other, who's going to get the most meters, most tackles, whatever. So it'll be interesting. But, I mean, Lindsay Smith, he got a taste of rep football this year and has been in and around the team and coming off the bench and won a couple of premierships. So it's probably his time now to step it up and concrete that front row position that Fisher-Harris has left.
100%, mate. It is going to be really interesting to see how, as you said, Leota reacts, but more so who takes that spot. If it is a Lindsay Smith, if it is maybe a Liam Henry, a little bit unexpected to hop in there as well, who takes that spot. But I think the big thing for me as well, and it's not going to be something that a lot of people are thinking about. You look at James Fisher-Harris, you're losing an enforcer, but Fish plays big minutes, and Leota's known more for playing the shorter stints, the 25 to 30 minute stints. Fisher-Harris, he plays around the 45, 50, 55, 60 minute mark. So to lose a guy that does play those big minutes as well, and to not really have that replacement locked in too, it does worry me a little bit looking at the Panthers. Talk to me about that as well.
Yeah, well, they've got as you mentioned, Liam Henry and Lindsay Smith, a couple of young guns to maybe step into that front row position. So yeah, that I mean, a lot of experience lost with the Fish, but they've got the right systems out there. They probably would have been starting to plan as soon as they knew that he was leaving for this year. So it's up for grabs that position. So I think it'll be Lindsay Smith, I think, who gets it. But as you mentioned before, Liam Henry could be a crack at it as well.
Well, mate, even an Isaiah Papali'i who's coming in this year, and maybe I'm out thinking the room a little bit, but is he a chance? We saw him move into the middle a little bit for the Tigers towards the back end of the year before his departure. Is he a guy that maybe hops into the middle for a bit more of a mobile take on the pack?
Yeah, he could very much do that as well. Maybe when one of the front rowers is off the field, because he would play big minutes as well. So, yeah, definitely that's an option.
be really interesting to see what they go with here, the Penrith Panthers in their pack. Look, I know we shouldn't really do this because it's the Penrith Panthers. We know what the outcome was of the last season. They won the comp. But having a little bit of a look back at their season, it was second place behind Melbourne. 17 wins, 7 losses, scored 580 points. Points against was only 394, and you look at the disparity there between that 394 points against compared to a lot of other teams as well. It's really impressive, and the more impressive thing is that a lot of these guys are playing rep footy. They're playing for Australia, Samoa, whatever it be. So they're having a much more extended season. Finals, adding on those international duties. A lot of them playing Origin, and they've done that for 4 years straight. 5 years straight, because they've been in the past 5 grand finals. Mate, that surely has to take a toll at some point, doesn't it?
Oh, definitely, you would think so. Massive workloads that they have these days, and as you mentioned, rep football late into the season, finals. I mean, they're playing, about 30, 32 games a year. And as you said, they've done that for 4 or 5 years. And then the Origin in between that as well. So yeah, it's got to. You would think it's got to take the toll, but I think just they've learnt from over those years as well. They know what to do. They've got the systems in place. But yeah, I think they will slip a little, but you can never count them out.
You can never count them out. That's exactly right, mate. Look, their side is looking quite strong. Obviously, I knew a few younger guys coming into fray. Dane Laurie, where is he going to fit into this piece, into this puzzle? Is he going to get a spot in the back line? There was hints of him coming onto the wing at stages at the back end of the year for the Panthers. 14s can see him come onto a number of roles. Is Dane Laurie in your starting 17, mate? Is he a guy that you'd have in calculations there for Penrith?
Yeah, I would think so. I think, as you said, he could probably cover most positions in the back line. He might even be able to cover hooking position as well. He's got that explosive speed off the mark. So yeah, he'd probably be someone who would be in that 17 for most of the year. Another player that probably would be forcing themselves into that 17 if Blaze doesn't do too well at 5'8" is Jack Cole as well. Mav Geyer as well could force his way onto that bench. So, but yeah, definitely Dane Laurie. I think he's just one of those players who can add that impact off the bench.
100%, mate. 100%. Look, I love your point on Jack Cole. I think that he was the plan for number 6 until obviously we saw Blaze Talangi get signed, and obviously that sparked the discussion that he was going to be the 5'8" there. Obviously, 2 different players, and putting a guy like Cole in, it does sort of suit that footy of previous years where they even the load out in the halves, whereas obviously if you have Blaze Talangi there, who is a bit more of a fullback hybrid, sort of 5'8" there, then you're obviously going to have Cleary, having most of the load, as we spoke about before. So that's an interesting option as well. It's keen to see maybe if we do get thrown off here and Blaze Talangi goes into the centres and we see a Jack Cole come into the halves, or maybe even a Dane Laurie hop in there at 5'8". But mate, I love your point on Maverick Geyer. I think that he was a guy that I was super impressed with last year in his stints, whether it be in the back row, having to fill in 2 games in the finals at centre as well. People forget. And did a terrific job defensively there and played big minutes too in those roles. Mate, Maverick Geyer, I am a huge fan of him and his work rate, and I think it's going to be a real battle between him and probably his opposition there in Luke Garner for a bench spot, in my opinion too. So love your points on those two, but I want to throw one at you, mate. West Tigers recruit from last year, Asu Kapala. He, I think, came through the Penrith system, obviously went to the Tigers and then has now gone back to Penrith. What's your sort of read on him? Because it was a little bit confusing, his role at the Tigers, and then, coming to Penrith, went into the centres and in the back row and absolutely killed it in New South Wales Cup.
Well, to be honest, I don't know too much about him, but I guess if he has come from Penrith to the Tigers back to Penrith, then he'll be happy about that one, coming back into those Penrith systems. Uh, so yeah, to be honest, I don't know that too much about him. To be honest,
Yeah. Oh, so sorry, mate. I'm trying to throw these little curveballs at you. It's all right. It's all right. Yeah, Asu Kapoa, love him.
that's all right.
I think that he's definitely going to be a guy that comes into calculations, and a lot of these other guys that we saw glimpses of throughout last year, I think are definitely going to be up there. Jesse McLean and Casey McLean are two that I really like as well. Casey, we did see a bit of towards the back end of last year, and obviously played for the Kiwis and scored 5 tries, which was just, that's the dream, isn't it? That's the dream. Just to sit outside Sean Johnson, sitting out there on that left edge, just arms up, getting ready for that ball, 5 tries. That is seriously the dream. Casey McLean, I am loving the side of him coming into this Penrith side, and only 19 years of age.
Yeah, that's it. It certainly burst into that scene in those Pacific Championships, and he will want to be securing that wing position for sure. And very talented player, and hopefully he'll want to be there for a long time to come. One other interesting point, I don't know whether you're going to mention it or not, but the fact that Penrith will be playing at CommBank Stadium for the next 2 years as well. I don't know how much of an impact that will have.
Like the South Sydney and Roosters little rivalry there out at Allianz, to be honest, because we're going to be playing a few games at Allianz as well. So a bit of Western rivalry out there at CommBank. What's going on?
Oh, well, look, I mean, who wouldn't want to play at CommBank Stadium, the best rugby league ground in Australia, I reckon. But
state of the art.
Are the Penrith fans going to try? I know it's only half an hour-ish away, but are they going to make those travels all the time? Certainly when they're playing Parramatta, they will. But just new surrounds, especially for someone like Nathan Cleary as well. I mean, he's obviously a professional and a champion player, but you know how these players, the kickers especially, have their little marks that they like to kick for, but now at different surroundings. So it'd just be interesting to see how that goes for the next couple of years.
Mate, 100%. It will be interesting, actually. It's a great point. It is only 30 minutes away, but it will be interesting to see if those trips are made by the fan base there at Penrith out to CommBank for a few of those home games. So that is definitely going to be a little bit of a watch. Mate, I think it might be a little bit of an obvious question, but where do you see Penrith lining up on the ladder?
Oh, look, I think they still got a top 4 side. I think they can. They still have quality players that have been there for a long time. I mean, Isaiah Yeo, Liam Martin, obviously Nathan Cleary, Brian Toto, Dylan Edwards. So they've still got a good chunk of great players there. So I think they will be in the top 4. I don't think they'll get the minor premiership, but they'll be, I'm going to say, 4th position.
Yeah, mate, I agree. I've got them at 4th as well. I think that they might drop down a little bit towards the start of the year, and they might not be up there at that stage. But I think late they'll make a push and they'll get into the top 4 by the end of season. Obviously, as we lead into finals, but definitely still a top 4 side. You've got great players there, and look, I think the big point is Cleary taking a little bit more ownership of this side. I'm really excited to see how he goes. Mate, the Roosters, the Sydney Poosters, what are we thinking about the Roosters going into this year? What's your read on them? Obviously losing a bit of experience themselves as well.
Yeah, look, they've lost a massive chunk, haven't they? And they're starting the season without 2 of their star players, Sam Walker and Brandon Smith, for an extended period throughout the year. So that's their major losses as well. So, I think they will slide. I don't know how far, but I think they will slide this year. I can't see them making the top 4.
Yeah.
They still have good players there. Can they jag that eighth position? I don't know, but it's going to be interesting to see with a whole lot of new players in that side as well.
Well, mate, yeah, as you said, they lose a ton of players here and a ton of experience as well. Suwali, Manu, Hargraves, Kiri, Tupanua, Terrell May, late left as well. Michael Jennings obviously retired, and then Zach Docker-Clay unsigned for the 2025 season. Losing a ton of experience out of this team. Obviously, Suwali, Manu, Jared, Kiri, the main ones there. Out of those four, which do you think is the biggest loss for the Roosters?
I think Joey Manu. I think he can play a couple of positions in that back line. He can turn something into to turn nothing into something. I mean, obviously Jared was a big enforcer at the club. Um, Luke Keary, he had the experience as well. Won a couple of comps there. But yeah, I think Joey Manu, to be honest, and I don't know if he's going to come back halfway throughout the year.
Well, look, he's killing it in Japanese rugby, mate. He's having a real ball up there too. I've been following along a little bit where I can. I've followed the Japanese rugby Instagram, so getting a little updates where I can. He's playing with Aaron Smith, who is a rugby union great. I think they've just signed another All Black up there as well, and they've signed Michael Hooper too just recently. So he's got a fair few rugby stars heading there. I think he's just finished their equivalent to the preseason trials. And he is killing it. He's had a few beautiful Joey Manu flick passes, which we will definitely miss going into 2025. But look, mate, you talk about him as one of the bigger losses for the Roosters. Like, he was a safety net for them when injuries arose. Obviously, he could cover 5'8", could cover fullback, could cover anywhere in the back line. He was generally a safety net for them. And then to not only lose him, but to lose Suwali, who can obviously cover all of those positions as well. You know, the depth of the Roosters is going to be tested this year. It really is. Because if Tedesco goes down, the next best guy you've got is Ethan King, which he's still pretty good, but very young, very raw. You know, if one of the halves go down at the start of the year, especially if Chad or Sandon Smith go down, there's not too many options there. You know, definitely no one off the top of my head that can hop into those positions. You know, it's going to be a really interesting year for the Roosters, and you know they're going to be starting the year with Connor Watson playing 80 minutes at hooker, most likely with Sandon Smith at 5'8" too. So it is going to be a extremely tough start for the Roosters depth-wise too. Talk to me about the scarcity there around the depth, especially in the spine.
Yeah, well, as you mentioned, as I said before, Sam Walker's out for half the year with that knee injury, so that position will have to be filled. Obviously, they've got Chad Townsend coming into the team, so he'll probably slot straight into there. But as you said, if Sandon Smith or Chad go down, they don't have a real lot of depth there. I mean, Connor could play the halves, but then who do you put in at hooker as well, with Brandon Smith not starting the year as well? So, yeah, they are struggling for a lot of spine positions.
And the big thing for me, like it would be okay if they had a little bit of experience, some older guys in and around the club that could hop into these sort of positions, like you had with Docker Clay throughout the year last year. But they don't even have that. I mean, Tyler Moriarty has only played, I think, one first grade game, if that. And he's the replacement 9 at the moment. As I said, there's not too many other halves that stand out off the top of my head if one of the halves goes down at the start of the year. Ethan King has only played one first grade game, and that was on the wing for the Roosters during that Anzac Day game. So the depth will be tested for the Roosters. It really will. But talk to me about losing the experience in the halves. Obviously, Chad Townsend's going to be there at 7. But obviously, when Sam Walker comes back, you're thinking it's going to be a Sandon Smith and Sam Walker combination. Talk to me about losing Keary as that experience and that level head.
Yeah, well, that's what you need in games, especially if you're behind on the scoreboard late in the game. Try and keep your heads on and try and get that win. And as I said before, he's won competitions before. He's played Origin. He's played for Ireland as well, and Australia, I think it was. So yeah, he was a bit of a calming influence on the team when things were down, and yeah, his experience will be definitely missed, especially for these young halves like Sanders Smith and Sam Walker.
100%, mate. It will be interesting to see how the Roosters go. Depth will be tested, but a lot of experience walking out of the door as well. So keen to see how they handle that. Big emphasis, I think, on James Tedesco as the leader in that side to really stand up and do what he did back only a few seasons ago where they scraped into finals as well. Look, their side going into 2025, you've got two new centres there. Whatever you do, you're going to have two new centres there. Billy Smith, Mark Nawaqanitawase and Robert Toya are in calculations there. Sounds like the favourites are Billy Smith and Mark Nawaqanitawase, the rugby union recruit, which is really exciting too. But Mark, he's going to be the interesting one there because, playing a lot of footy on the wing last year in Cup and pretty much came through as a winger. He'd probably have a lot of time during pre-season to develop his game at centre. But these rugby converts, it is going to be really interesting to see how they travel in the rugby league space, especially at such a demanding spot as centre, attacking-wise and defensively.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't know if we've seen a rugby convert smash it in rugby league lately or ever, to be honest. Yeah, you would think he would get that centre spot. And if Billy Smith can hold down that other centre spot and not have injuries like we have seen, unfortunately, then he'll get that other spot. But for Mark, well, it'll be that unexpected, I guess, comes into play as well. I mean, obviously represented Australia at rugby, so the Roosters have Trent Robinson has identified something there and someone who he wants in his team. So he obviously knows his ability. So a big preseason for him, no doubt, and he'll be in that round one squad for sure, I think.
Yeah, 100%. It is going to be interesting to see who wins that battle between Toya and Mark Nawaqanitawase for sure. And yeah, as you said, it's been a while, if we've ever seen it, where a rugby convert has come over and killed it in first grade. So yeah, it will be interesting to see the selection choices and things like that. Obviously, a few young guys set to come into the squad in regards to the forward pack too, losing Terrell May and Jared Warrior-Hargraves. I've got Dilar Selva'a and a little bit of bias for myself because I went to school with him for the last few years of my schooling career, played A grade with him, so there is a little bit of bias there. But I certainly think that he's got what it takes, and just even watching his debut and just playing with him as well. I remember, I'll tell you a little bit of story about Dilar Sel. We were playing Champagne, or Corpus Christi as it's called now. We were playing at the start of the season. I think it might have been the first or second game of the year for us at A grade. And we mercy ruled Corpus Christi. But it got to the point late in the game, I think we were 40-0 up, where Dilar Sel would get the ball kicked to him off the kickoff. He'd run about 20 metres and everyone would just go, yeah, no, I'm not going. I'm not going for that. He'd run about 50 metres and then people would start jumping on his back and trying to tame the bull there and get him down. So, he's definitely got that effect. Even just watching him handle himself among some first grade players as well. I'm really excited for Dilar Sel.
Yeah, well, that sounds very interesting. I'll have to keep an eye out for that one. But yeah, I think Sia Wong as well. We saw a little bit of him last year, so hopefully he can get a bench spot. Egan Butcher as well. It'll be interesting to see if he can crack it. But yeah, that'll be interesting to see how they use that bench and who of those young guns they can get a start.
Yep, I am super excited to see how the Roosters go. I think it could be anywhere from fantastic to a really, really harsh season for the Roosters, depending on what happens when these stars do walk back into the building in Brandon Smith and Sam Walker. The dynamic change, obviously, getting used to Chad Townsend and Sandon Smith and that dynamic in the halves, and then having to change that again leading into the back end of the year too. Mate, tell me, where do you see the Roosters in 2025? What's your ballpark for a ladder prediction for them?
Oh, look, I think they may be eighth to a 13th. I think anywhere in that spot. If they can get some early wins throughout the year, I don't think they should be expecting miracles from Sam Walker and Brandon Smith when they come back. And they shouldn't be relying on them coming back as well to get wins. But yeah, I think they will struggle a little bit. And yeah, anywhere between 8th and 13th, I'll say probably 11th.
Yeah, mate, you're very close to me. I've got 12th. I think that they will sort of sit around that area that you're talking about as well. As I said, I think that it can go anywhere from sort of fantastic for the Roosters to real struggle streak when Sam Walker comes back in, depending on how he returns and what the dynamic is there between the halves, getting used to that combination. I mean, it's going to be very hard because Sam Walker's supposed to come back around the Origin period, and you've got between Origin and Finals to get used to a halves combination when usually that takes more than a year to get used to. So that's going to be a really critical part of the Roosters season, how quickly Sam Walker and Sandon Smith can gel and get used to each other, because they are two quite frantic players too. So just balancing out that dynamic and trying to get used to that, you know, at the back end of the year is going to be really interesting. But yeah, mate, look, I agree with you. I think that 12th, 11th, 12th is probably a fair spot. Anywhere between 8th and 13th, I think is quite fair as well. Troy, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on, mate. I think it's one of the better parts of the series to do. I mean, you've got 3 really fun teams to talk about. So appreciate your time, mate. And look, it was a great chat.
Not a problem, mate. Really appreciate being on the show and talking rugby league and those teams in particular, and look forward to the season coming up, and keep up the great work.